Well, I wasn't terribly interested in 1916. I had no knowledge, very little knowledge of it. And I was looking at the Bureau of Military Archives one day, and I saw a name I recognised, Harry Colley, who was George Colley's father. And I read his statement, and it was fascinating. And that led to another statement, and that led to another statement. And eventually, what I did was I gathered together all of the information on one small unit, F Company of 2nd Battalion of the Irish Volunteers, and what they did in their base in Fairview, and then they went into the GPO, and then went into Jacob's factory, and I followed them through the week, and I expanded it slightly to other areas as well. And that way you get to see the rank and file and what they did during the week and how they experienced the rising and what they thought of the leaders and how they experienced the leaders. None of the leaders, of course, left statements. They were all shot. But we get to see how they behaved under pressure. And it's fascinating for that, just for that in itself. In the 1940s, the Oscar Traynor was Minister for Defence, and he set up the Bureau of Military History, and they went to all of the veterans they could find of the War of Independence, and they asked them to make statements, and it was all put away for decades until all of these people had died, and then it was released to historians, and then it was put online. And it is fascinating stuff. I'd recommend it to anyone. If you never read a book about it, go to the Bureau of Military History and read the statements. It's just ordinary Dublin people, Wexford people, people in extraordinary circumstances, and the things they saw and the things they did. It's fascinating stuff. Some of the statements are what you'd expect, the kind of the glorious day we died for Ireland kind of thing. But a lot of them are just ordinary people, and here's what happened to me. And you don't get the kind of romantic stuff about Pearse's flashing eyes and all that. You get Pearse with his face swollen from the heat in the GPO as it burnt down around him. That kind of detail you get from the statements because those people were there, and their experiences burned into their memories, and it's all there, and it's really the story was waiting to be told. I didn't have a great interest in 1916. Most people of my generation, it was something that we didn't want to look back. We wanted to look forward from all those kind of politics. And then in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, people either wanted to glorify 1916 or to demonize it. And what a lot of people forgot was that it was an astonishing thing to happen. That a very small group of very poorly armed people went up against an empire which a fifth of the world's population were in the British Empire, and they hadn't a chance, and they went out for a particular reason, and they lost. But then, as a result of what they did, developments changed in Ireland, which led to the formation of the state.